Hey guys, what's going on? Dorencott here. Welcome to the first video on Bitwig. Today we are going to take a look at the basic features of the program. How do you get audio to come out of it? And yeah, we're just going to take a look at the very basics. We're going to get very in-depth quite soon, but I just want to get this video out of the way early so that anybody who wants to join, coming from Reason, yeah, let's just jump into it. So let's switch over here. This is what the program looks like when you boot it up and you open up a blank project. Now, some stuff is in here that won't be there when you open up a new project. That's because I've got a personal template with lots of in-out effects and gating and stuff like that. I'm going to make a very long, very in-depth video on that soon. But for now, know that these send and return channels down here send audio to OBS, and that's what I'm recording with. So whenever I pull up a new track, I'm going to activate send number 2 so that the audio gets recorded in OBS, and I hope I remember it every time. So yeah, let's get started. So this is the basic overview of Bitwig. It's what's called the arranger page. We've got two different sequencers in this program. We've got on the right, we've got a regular timeline-based sequencer, and then anybody who's familiar with Ableton's concept of launching clips, we've got sort of like a clip launcher sequencer on the left here, which is of course empty at the moment. So let's create some music. I'm going to click the plus button, and that's going to bring up the browser. Now, having never used Ableton and coming from Reason, I thought this was just mind-blowingly good, even though it's a mundane feature. But you just type what you want, and then you hit the down arrow and you hit enter, and it's fantastic. So let's pull up one of the synths that I like. It's called Polymer, one of Bitwig's instruments. It's a rather recent one. Just hit enter, and down there it is. So that's your instrument. There will be some, I mean, to anybody who has ever used a synth, it's going to be very familiar, right? You've got your ADSR envelope here, you've got your filter envelope here, or filter section here. This is the envelope amount, you've got ADSR here. I shouldn't say that I'm going to make a video on every single device because I'm just going to do it anyway. But this is a basic synth for now. And if you play notes on your keyboard and you have your record arm activated, there's going to be sound coming out of there. Now I'm going to have to activate the send so you guys can hear it as well. But yeah, there's your synth. Pretty easy. So all you do is just hit the plus button, type something up. Now it works the same way with effects. So here you've got your chain down here, hit the plus button. Let's say you want to put a peak limiter on there. So I just go peak, hit enter, and there it is. That's the limiter. It's got a beautiful display. Got all the controls that you could ever need. I mean, it's a limiter. What else is it going to do? It's a limiter. But here's the interesting thing. This is where it gets interesting. Bitwig comes with two interesting things. One is modulators, which I'm going to get into in just a second here. But to anybody coming from Reason, I want to talk about Reason 3.0 back in the day. The combinator. Combinator was mind-blowing at the time because it allowed you to combine devices, multiple devices into one. How awesome was that? Now, since then, many software developers have tried different approaches that go in the same direction. So you could, for example, buy packs of channel strips, right? Channel strip VSTs. One of those would be Isotope Neutron. Actually, let's pull that up here. So you would buy a VST, and it would provide you with its own version of a lot of different effects that you would need, right? So you've got your EQ, you've got your compressor, you've got your sculptor, which is something that only Isotope comes with, but you've got your gates and stuff. You've got all the stuff you need, right? And it comes in a package. Then, of course, there was also the possibility to use Reason with the combinator, which allowed you to chain multiple devices, and that was a new thing at the time. I remember Reason Drum Kits 3.0 coming out, where they said no other software or hardware does this. I believe something along those lines. I'm going to put a little clip here. But yeah, so this is possible in Bitwig. The mind-blowing thing, if you will, is that a lot of the devices in Bitwig can contain their own effects chains. So that's awesome in itself. So we've got the polymer patch here. And let's say we're pretty happy with that. But it could use some delay. So I'm going to click the FX, and now a second plus has appeared. So just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to put a peak limiter here. And I'm not going to change any settings, so we're not going to touch the input, and you can see there's no gain reduction. But watch what happens if I click this little plus and I put some delay in here. So this is a delay unit, delay 2 it's called, and it's got these brackets around it, which is sort of like effects chains in Ableton Live can, contain effects chains. And the nice thing about this is you can just save this entire chain as a preset. You just go right click, save preset to library, boop, and there you've got your tags and everything. So you can say delay plug, if you will. I mean, it's not really a plug, but okay. And there's our delayed plug. So that delay is now saved with the preset, and we can recall it at any time. So this is pretty cool. I'm just gonna make this a real plug real quick. So just maybe mess with the envelope, turn down the filter, and adjust the envelope amount. And if you're having trouble following what I'm doing, this is another thing I really like. You can, on any device, just hit the little question mark item up here. And it's going to bring up this nice help screen, which is interactive, so you can tweak the settings as you see fit while it's in the zoomed in state. It's pretty cool. So this is an audio effect, and these both are audio effects. But let's say we want to do something like the players in Reason. There's also the category of note effects. Note effects you put before the synth, of course. So let's go with probably the best demonstration is an arpeggiator, because that always gives nice results. This is an arpeggiator. Here's where you select the modes. So I like the blossom down, for example. And let's play some arps. I'm just gonna do like a major 7 something. I'm just gonna play some chords. And of course I'm holding down the sustain pedal, but now all the notes that are coming in here are being arpeggiated. And of course you can combine these. So you could, for example, go multi-note, which is gonna just add notes. So instead of playing, like if I hit now one note on the keyboard, you get all these notes out. And that's already super quick. And then you go diatonic transposer. And you've got your instant perfect chords system. Like it's that fast. And then you can just draw in some notes and easy. So now all these notes are being generated, arpeggiated, and then filtered. The diatonic transposer makes it snap to a certain scale. And now basically, if you set it to the right scale, any key you press is gonna sound perfect. So yeah, it's really quick in that way, and I love it. Also, when it comes to navigation, this is another thing I like. Just hold down middle mouse button and scroll, like in a video game. It's these things that I think you need a groundbreaking, not groundbreaking, but like from the ground up, build a new program, like clean slate, and then think about it first. Here's another example. We've got an EQ, and the EQ, of course, with many modern EQs, is color-coded. Right, so the spectrum goes from red to white. So it's sort of like the colors in a prism. But on some devices, I'm not sure whether it's the case with this particular patch, but on some devices, when you change the frequency, the colors on the dials will change as well. Unfortunately, I'm still too new to this to know which ones do it, but it's pretty cool. I think also if you activate it here, let's add a band. Yeah, the band changes color depending on where it's put, as you can see here. So it's just intuitive things like this. Or let's say you want a left side splitter. I believe it's called side splitter. Stereo split, yes. It's just coded white and red, like it would be with cinch cables on a stereo. You know, it's these little things that just make me really feel at home, and it's very intuitive. So that's just really cool. But apart from, so let's go back and remove all these nodes here. The other thing I wanted to show you is the modulators. So how many times were you limited in, you know, all the synths that you know by needing an extra modulator? New synths have come out, Vital, Serum, Faceplant, Massive X. They're all about modulating. But for me, I find myself trying those synths out, but then always going back to Bitwig or just the stock stuff. Still, I mean, that time is gonna come. But you know, let's just add a modulator. So the way you do this, do that is you just pop out this little window here. You've already got a mod wheel sort of modulator going on. If I use the mod wheel, it's gonna open up and close. You can see that here. And then the way you route it is you just click this little assignment arrow, and then you dial in the amount. And now if I move my mod wheel from 0 to maximum, this is the amount it's going to travel. Deactivate modulation mode by clicking here again. And now as I move my mod wheel, you can see the LFO from the mod wheel gets applied. It's sort of like a vibrato. I'm going to play it here. Actually, I'm going to give that some sustain. And I've applied that to the filter and to the filter frequency. So filter is going to start wobbling. As I open up the mod wheel, close it again. So yeah, that's how that works. And it's just really cool in the way, yeah, it's just super modular. And yeah, it also works with VSTs. So let's say we want the Reason Rack plugin. And it's just going to load up here. I don't have Reason started at the moment, so it's going to take a second. And I'll just open up the Thor. And now we've got basic VST controls. For example, we've got the polyphony control, and we've got this entire page here that's already mapped out. Or we can just click a button once, for example, rotary 1, and then you can see this top category is switched to a dial that you can control. And let's say we want to put an LFO on this comb filter in Reason. All you need to do is just grab a modulator, throw in an LFO, or even better, throw in random, which is one I really like. It generates a random signal. You can sort of dial in that it's supposed to be a bit more smooth, and then make it a bit more contrasty. And now we use the same technique, apply that to rotary number 1, and as I play it, you can see that the dial is moving on the comb filter. And you can use these modulators everywhere. It's just really, it's fantastic. It's really cool. It sets up fantastic creative possibilities. It's quick, it's fast, and I really like this program. I was not endorsed to say that either, but I just feel right at home. So yeah, so this is how you get it to make sound. Now, as we move on, how do we actually record some stuff into the sequencer? I'm gonna delete this and create a drum machine. So this is what Bitwig's drum machine looks like. And the drum machine is just, it looks very basic, and it really is. All it is a container with a ton of effects chains. 16 are displayed at any given time, but you can switch the ranges here. So let's start by adding a drum. So I'm just going to go to Browser, Samples. There's another browser on the right here with a preview function. So we go to Bitwig, and I'm just going to go Bitwig Drum Machines. And I did not prepare this video, so I'm just going to start browsing here. And you're not going to hear those, of course, because I don't have it rooted. But I'm just going to pick this one. So here's a clap. Let me just set this up so you can hear it. And as I hit the play button here, you're going to get the preview. This over here is Bitwig's sampler device. I could get into it, but I don't really want to. Of course, you've got the ADSR controls and you can modulate your sound, but what I'm trying to say is for every single sample that you load in, it's automatically going to create an own individual sampler. And that sampler is really nice. It's very powerful. It's got good looping modes. It's got fantastic repitching. It's got a built-in filter. It's super nice. It's a good sampler. So this can also contain other devices, of course. So if I hit the plus button, I can put pretty much anything in there that can generate a sound. Bitwig comes with its own tone generator, sort of like Kong in Reason does. So I'm just going to put an e-kick there. So it creates this e-kick device, and as I hit play, there's an e-kick. And of course, with this one, I'll have to root that up so you can hear it. There's the kick, and there's the clap. Now we have two ways of putting that into the sequencer. We could either use the linear mode, which is what I'm going to do first. So I'll just do a double click into the sequencer, and there's a clip. We've got the clip here, and it's seen that this is a drum lane, so it's only given us the lanes where we've already loaded samples. So I'm just gonna put some 4 on the floor maybe, and put a clap down, and now grab the loop range, which you can find right here, activate loop, and hit play. And then you can hold down your middle mouse button, zoom out, grab the clip like in any other program, and yeah, move it around. You can find your snap values and other sequencer settings down here. And yeah, you can zoom in, zoom out. Automation works as follows. So you hit this little button, and these are your automation lanes that are going to pop up here. Now, let's say, for example, I would like to modulate the decay of the kick, or let's say the tune of the kick for demonstration's sake. I don't know why you would do that. Maybe if you're being really precise, I don't know. So as soon as you click it, it's going to switch to this tuning, and this is awesome, right? You can just start drawing in automation. And the way it snaps, it's hard to describe, and I don't want to get too much into detail, but it's just really intuitive the way that the automation snaps to all the grid values and the way you can move them up and down. And it feels like the program sort of anticipates what you're trying to do. And it's super easy. Curved automation is in there as well by holding down the Alt key. At any point, if you're wondering what you're doing in the sequencer, you can just at any point hover over a point, let's say, and you can read at the bottom of my screen there. It will just display you some information. It just holds your hand in a very good way, and it's just super quick. So let's see how this sounds. I mean, I've made worse. No, all jokes aside. So this is the sequencer that's timeline based, but of course we also have this interesting loop launcher or clip launcher, if you will. So what you do is you double click and it creates a clip, and you open that up, and that gives you, of course, like with the drum machine, a piano roll either, or once again we're going to draw in a pattern. And this is sort of like a grid where you can lay out different ideas. If you're coming from Ableton, you're familiar with this. So I've got this clip here. I hold down Control and I copy it over to scene 2, and now I can start one of the two, and they will just start looping. So now this one is playing, and now this one is playing. Now if I double click the second one and add like a variation here, right? So you can switch back and forth. And this serves as sort of like a sketchboard, right? So you can, if you're undecided on, let's say, a drum loop or something, you can just do various different, variations, and then you can experiment by dragging them in, and, can grab clips from the sequencer, put them in here. So it works both ways, and it's just sort of like, if you have one desk, and then you have a second desk on the side where sometimes you just got to put some stuff, and just leave it there. That's sort of what that feels like, and I find it super useful. Yeah, so what else can you do? So let's say you've been experimenting with this and you decided that you want this first loop 3 times, and then for the last time we want this variation. Now we could just copy this over 3 times, but that would be much too complicated. So what we do is actually we grab it by the lower handle down here. So instead of grabbing it here and instead of copying it over, we are just grabbing it here where the cursor switches over to this looping mode. And then you drag it out and it will just start looping the same section. So now we've got this one for 3 times and this one once. Now the sequencer is still armed for this section, so we are just going to hit this button to transfer control back to the timeline-based sequencer, and for the meantime hide this one. You can just extend it and retract it using this. And here's our loop, right? So we've got the first variation 3 times and then the second variation for 1 time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, as it is always the case with me, I didn't even put in a variation on the second one. Okay, so here's your variation, but here's the nice thing about this looping thing, right? So let's say you're working on a full song and it's 3 minutes long or even 12 minutes long, and you've got a drum loop and you want to switch just one hi-hat all throughout the song. What you can do is, just go into the first bar, which is still, a 1-bar loop, which is just looped 3 times. So anything that I change in here, it's going to apply to the other looped sections as well. So that's just really, really useful. I was always, just like Protostar is, a fan of putting stuff into samplers and not audio. At least that's how I remember him. But putting stuff into samplers and not as audio, because with samplers you can always tweak something to the last minute. I know, da scheiden sich die Geister, as we say in Germany. And there's a lot of different opinions on that kind of thing. Other people are always saying, you have to commit all the time, bounce your stuff out, start making decisions. I like my samplers. So yeah, so there's our drum loop, and let's just say I'm gonna put another polymer because I don't want to get everything too confusing. So there we've got our 4-bar loop, and I'll just throw an up just like I did earlier and put another setting, maybe Blossom Up for this time. And yeah, I'll just leave the standard patch and do a bit of a recording. So yeah, there's your loop. I think I overdubbed that one by accident. But I just hit record just like you would in any other program. You play it back. And then if you're happy with that, I think that's a fantastic song. You go to File, Export Audio, and there you get your settings to export it. I'm not sure since when they added the option of exporting MP3s. I'm not sure whether that's part of the beta, because I remember times when I didn't see it, or whether that had something to do with, I don't know, that I was using the demo version or something, but the demo version doesn't have export. Anyway, that's where you go. Select your format, select your bitrate, select your loop range. This is where you do bounces as well. And yeah, that's your song. Done. Easy. So yeah, this was just pretty much a personal sort of like introductory thing, how you can approach that kind of stuff in Bitwig. Just get started, throw some stuff in there. You can't really do anything wrong. And yeah, see what comes out. And of course, stay tuned to this channel, because I've got a lot of in-depth analysis and of course some previews, what I'm working on coming up. So watch this space. Darn Code out.